Law or psychology? Why choose when you can master both? Taryn's dual degree journey led to something unexpected, a family law practice built on empathy, not ego. Professionally Psyched is the podcast that brings you cutting-edge psychology research and real-world insights from our psych community of clinicians, researchers, and educators alike. In our special alumni spotlights, we chat to graduates from our psychology degree programs about how their skills learned in the classroom have become powerful tools supporting diverse career journeys and successes. Hi everyone and welcome to Professionally Psyched. I'm Jessica Muller, PhD candidate in Public Health at James Cook University, and before we get started we'd like to acknowledge the custodians of the land on which we record, and for me today that's the Bindal and Wulgurukaba peoples. And I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and cultures from wherever you may be tuning in from across the country. In this alumni spotlight, Dr. Amanda Krause speaks with Taryn Hokin, who pursued both law and psychology because she simply couldn't choose between them. Taryn shares why emotional intelligence trumps legal knowledge when hiring, and how she's redefining family law with a do no harm philosophy. So grab your headphones and get ready to get professionally psyched about building businesses that align with your values. Enjoy.
Taryn, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. To start, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So hi, my name's Taryn Hokin and I attended JCU many moons ago to undertake a law degree and a psychology degree.
And how did you find your way into not choosing one of those, but choosing both of those topics?
For me, I always had an interest in both, and I always had an interest in people. Although at the time, JCU didn't offer a dual degree for law and psychology, I just decided that I wanted to keep my options open and complete both of the degrees, because at the time of embarking on them both, I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go.
Yeah, and so tell us a little bit more about what happened after graduating and sort of where that path took you.
So I think maybe 1 to 2 years before I graduated, I decided that law was the pathway that I wanted to go down, but I still was really interested in psychology and the intermingling of the two of them when you're dealing in client-facing roles of law, such as, wills and estates or family law, which is where I've ended up. And in the lead up to finishing my law degree, I also did my thesis, which combined the two, because I just didn't want to leave one from the other. I was still super interested in both. And then after graduation, I started working. It was right at the time of the GFC, so the global financial crisis. It was really hard to get a job. Lawyers were getting, laid off, and I started working for free. There's a Queensland Law Society diary, and I called every law firm or researched every law firm from A to S in the Gold Coast list. And when I didn't have any joy of even being able to volunteer my time there, I started again with the Brisbane list from Z and got to S. And a lovely gentleman agreed to interview me and took me on, and I ultimately ended up having a paid job there and then moving to another firm thereafter. So that's where I started my kind of law career. After you've graduated, you still have to do practical legal training, which takes another year. And then after you've done your practical legal training, it takes another 2 years before you're unsupervised. So, yeah.
And was that also in the family law space, or what sort of type of law did you start out in?
I did some volunteering when I was at university at a few law firms. I was really interested in criminal law. Again, the intersection there between psychology and criminal law was appealing to me. But at the time, it was a little bit of a boys' club, and I decided that I didn't really want to contend with that, and family law was always of interest to me as well. And once I'd made up my mind, I only ever applied to law firms that dealt exclusively in the arena of family law. And then I just knew that that was where I wanted to be in a client-facing role, and one where I could help clients on their journey. Although what I knew then versus what I knew now, what I know now, were very different, and I was very young to be dealing with people who were a lot older, and had children, and at that time I did not. So it's been an evolution and a progression for sure.
And certainly sounds like, as well with psychology, with law, that the bachelor's is only sort of the first step in a series of additional postgraduate study and professional development to get to where you are now at.
Yeah, and it served me very well to have an understanding of, at that time, it was the DSM-4 and all of the psychological diagnoses that could come through the door, and having a little bit more perhaps of an understanding of what that might mean for a person as to, I suppose, the average family lawyer. Also, I would say it boded really well in terms of my empathy for clients. I've obviously been naturally that way inclined in life anyway, but I felt the psychology degree really helped me kind of, break down those initial walls when dealing with clients who were in crisis, or dealing with clients who just needed a bit of a handhold or a pat on the back when they first came in for a consult, and just to let them know that they, I would try to help them as best I could, and that they would be, safe in my hands, essentially.
Yeah, so it sounds like some of those interpersonal skills that are so prioritized within sort of understanding of human behavior are really important. Were there any subjects or topics or theories that sort of have stuck with you from psychology and now the work that you do today?
I can't think of any particular subjects offhand, but I can say that that degree has absolutely unequivocally shaped the way that I practice family law now. I've now had my own law firm for the last 3 years, and my practice of law has really developed quite significantly since the start, where we were taught a certain way with respect to handling our clients, with respect to how to handle the party on the other side, and how to handle our opposition. But now I absolutely don't even view it in the same way. It's so much more collaborative. Before I have a business partner, and she has the same kind of ethos and ideas around the practice of family law that I do. And our entire firm is based around client care and relationships, and ensuring that, when lawyers and judges leave the building, that the clients are best placed to try to tackle ongoing co-parenting relationships. So from the outset, from starting this firm, every single part of what we have, trickled down into our drafting, into our mannerisms, into the way that we make our clients feel supported, kind of derives from that kind of fundamental, do no harm ethos. And our firm is really niche in that regard. It's something that fortunately more and more family law clients are seeking out now, and in particular within the female demographic. And so we're finding we're getting a lot of reach just by virtue of the niche that we've found ourselves in, because it aligns with our values.
Yeah, I found it really interesting to hear you talk about it as a collaboration. I guess when I think about lawyers, I think about the arguments and the opposing sides, but fundamentally, as you just said, we're talking about human relationships and human behaviors, and it's not as simple as winning an argument there. I wondered if you could tell me a little bit more around sort of what does your day-to-day look like in terms of working with clients or working with your business partner? What do you do within that work?
That in and of itself has been quite a significant evolution. So, maybe 12 months ago, my day would have consisted of a lot of client file work, a lot of calls, fielding, responses back and forth, drafting court documents, those types of things, attending court. But in the last 12 months, we're in a growth phase in the business. And so I've intentionally minimized a lot of my client work to work predominantly on the business instead of in the business. So my day now typically, well, a lot of my day is probably centered around mentoring. So we've got 2 junior family lawyers with us now, and they require a lot of time. So speaking to them, doing file reviews, checking their work, making sure they're set. And then otherwise it is basically doing business progression work. So at the moment, I'm looking through our financials. I'm doing, reporting, projections, having a look at where we're likely to be sitting in the next 6 months, thinking about when we might be in a position to take on another family lawyer. Yeah, and also systemization. So we've got a lot of letters that would be used in duplication. So we've got a precedent system, updating that, making sure that we've got beautiful workflows for our team to be able to follow. It's kind of, we're creating a bit of a system that teaches junior family lawyers how to be a lawyer 101. So it starts from when a client engages, it gives them workflows about, all right, what do you have to do next? And there's tasks set for them, and then it's all reviewed. And so I'm working on a lot of those systems in the background. That's me at the moment. I still have a file load. It's minimal now. So I'm still doing client work, and I'm doing a lot of client work kind of in a bit more of a subsidiary sense by mentoring the girls. But yeah, that's my day in a nutshell.
Really interesting. I wondered if you could speak from a place of, you're just saying you're doing a lot of mentoring of junior people coming out. And one of the things that I've been asking people is about sort of their suggestions, their advice for our current students who are about to become graduates and go into the workforce. So what do you look for in the people that you would hire and bring into your practice?
For me, for our firm, because of our ethos and because of what we want to provide our clients, the number one thing that we have learnt and tried and tested by hiring is that we're looking for somebody who has emotional intelligence. All of the rest of family law can be taught. And in terms of a practical thing that we look for is somebody who actually puts effort into applications. If I've put a Seek ad up, and it tells you what to do in the last 2 sentences, it's abundantly clear, just do that. That's all we're looking for. A cover letter, if it's generic, we're a niche firm. We want to know that this is your passion. We want to know that you know who we are, because we want to know who you are, and we're going to take a lot of time and effort to get to know you. But you're only going to get to the stage of getting an interview if you've taken the time to carefully craft your application to us. Like from a practical perspective, that's what we look like. And on a deeper level perspective, it's really just making sure that the person's able to engage well and has a bit of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, that emotional intelligence is so important. And I think, you're speaking from a particular context about client facing, but regardless of our careers, we're coming out of psychology and we're going to be working with clients or students or people in various roles. What's your top tip for actually working with other people, especially people who make you cross paths with who you might not know and need to develop that relationship with?
I would say listen and learn to listen and learn to listen deeply. The thing is that when you finish your degree, you're going to consider yourself to be somewhat of an expert, and you're going to know a lot more than perhaps the average person knows about the content or the speak piece to what you're being engaged for. But the reality is, unless a person feels really heard in terms of what they're trying to convey to you in any context, and that you're able to kind of explicitly, indicate to them through body language or through kind of repetition and confirmation that what they've said is really what they've meant, you're not going to be able to engage in that like deep kind of connection. And it's certainly applicable to anyone who's in any kind of crisis, and anyone really across the board, but in particular anyone who's needing to kind of have that first dump of information without being interrupted or judged or, and feeling like they've been properly heard. The next phase to that is making sure that you convey your competency. So they've been heard, they understand, and then it's really about you taking a step forward and saying, I've got you in this, I understand what you need, here's how I would like to see it play out, here's an action plan for you.
Yeah, fantastic. Taryn, it's been lovely chatting to you today. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Professionally Psyched. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the ongoing support of our Psych community. If you'd like to show your support or if you want us to cover anything on the pod, reach out via our emails, and don't forget you can listen to full episodes on Spotify.